So with some things, you feel confident that you can dive in there, you can do it yourself, but then there's other problems that you might need the help of a pro.
One of our viewers is questioning which category she falls into where her gear shift is concerned. We're turning to this gentleman for guidance.
Here he is, Jody Carnahan from Certified Transmission.
Welcome back, Jody.
Well, thanks for having me
We
again.
get to see it. You're like a solar eclipse. Where you come around every so often, but it's cool when you're here.
Well, thank you.
He's unavailable today, so thanks for filling in
Nice
for
to
him.
have you here.
I appreciate that.
It is great. And let's get to the first car question, because this is a good one. It's Erica. She writes, I have a 2009 Chevy Traverse, and for about a week, I noticed it was making a funny sound and the acceleration wasn't right. My husband checked the oil and noticed it was extremely low. We put 3 quarts in, and the problems went away. And the question she has is, have I caused any permanent damage to the engine by running low on oil for so long?
Well, 3 quarts of oil is quite a bit on an engine. That's 50% of its capacity. I guess good news is that the noise went away and the problems went away. Professionally, I don't think she did permanent damage. However, I have to throw the however in there, being 3 quarts is 50% of the capacity of that engine. Did it maybe compromise some components later on down the road? Good possibility it may have, but I guess only time will tell on that.
Yeah.
And I guess it also has to beg the question, 3 quarts of oil, where did it go?
Where did it go?
Right. Is there a leak?
Is there a leak somewhere, or is it actually, did the engine consume that oil?
And if it did, then is that an indication?
3 quarts would be a little excessive in a typical service interval. It'd be more than what would be expected. Typically, the OEs say a quart per 2,000, which I think is a little much anyway. So I guess that being said, something still needs to be checked. Either we have a leak somewhere, obviously if they've nosed it on the ground. Could be. If not, the engine might be starting to consume a little oil, which that'd be a little excess.
A sign
that
of a
needs to be
bigger
checked.
problem.
Yeah, it could be. Certainly need to have a professional check.
Get it looked at.
Absolutely.
All right,
yes.
thank you, Erica. Now to a question from Mark. He says, it seems my 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee has a lot of play or give in the steering wheel. It's not as tight as it used to be. Is that common for vehicles as they age?
Certainly not uncommon. An 04, that's 10 years old now. Could you start getting some wear in your steering linkages and stuff like that? Absolutely. It wouldn't be all that uncommon. Now, granted, depending on the severity of the looseness, I don't know how loose he's saying this is, but obviously if it's getting too loose, you're going to want to have that checked, because if you got a tie rod that's going bad, a pitman arm, something in that steering linkage, certainly you don't want to jeopardize or compromise your steering control.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Well, safety's always the thing for
absolutely.
you. Sometimes if it's a noise and it's just annoying, but there's no implication. But when it comes to safety, brakes, steering, all that, I know
Exactly,
you
and
guys
if you're
say
noticing
get it
something
done.
different on your vehicle like that, certainly take it in and have it checked. You know, and typically, like he's saying, that's going to be some normal wear. A vehicle like that's probably reaching 100,000 miles, and you're going to have some normal worn areas in the steering linkage, especially if it's a 4-wheel drive, things like that. They tend to wear out linkages a little quicker than it would if it was a 2-wheel drive.
Yeah, Mary and I, we're both driving new cars, and I'll tell you, when you get a new car, your steering wheel is tight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
When you're moving it, it's moving the vehicle.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Now, what he might be saying is now I have to turn it just a little bit more to get it to maneuver, which may not be anything serious whatsoever. But if it gets to be excessive, certainly have it looked at. Don't let it go too far.
Okay, we got another question. This is the last question from Kyra. She says, I have a Cadillac SRX. The wood inlay on my gear shift has cracked. Is a new gear shift something I can replace myself?
Not real familiar with interior components as such, but most generally, if it's on a General Motors vehicle, which Cadillac is, typically a shifter knob is usually held on by a set screw, like an Allen head or something like that. It's usually on the back side.
And then does it twist off?
Actually just pull straight off after you loosen this set screw. Now, if that's what she's talking about there, that's something she could probably do if she has the right tools. Now, most of those are Allen heads. Some of them may require a Torx bit or a Torx head, which is a little bit different tool.
But a lot of us have Allen sets in our garage.
Yeah, just in toolbox or toolkit, exactly.
Go online and order the part if she can.
Yeah, absolutely,
If it's that
sure.
type of set.
Absolutely.
I wasn't expecting that answer out of you.
Well, actually,
Now you
depends
gotta go
if
to a
that's
pro.
really what she's talking about there. Now, of course, there's other components like the shifter bezel and stuff like that I know a lot of the Cadillacs have wood inlay on them. That's a little more difficult because then you're having to get some flathead screwdrivers in there prying up on tabs. You'd want to be real careful with that because if you break one of them, then you're talking a pretty good expense.
So for our viewers who are having issues they believe are related to transmissions, because that's your specialty
Yes.
at Certified Transmission, remind us about getting the car in and getting it looked at. There's no charge?
There's absolutely no
initial look,
charge.
right?
If you feel at any time if it's something transmission related, honestly, it doesn't even have to be transmission related, because a lot of engine performance problems feel like transmission related problems. Feel free to bring those into us. We'll be happy to look at them. There is no charge for that service. Obviously, if a lot of diagnostics start getting into play, then there would be somewhat of a charge, but we would let you know that beforehand.
How do you know when you might be having some transmission issues? What symptoms, what signs should you look for?
Typically jerking, that the vehicle's starting to jerk, engine RPMs revving up, of course, if it feels like it's a neutraling out situation at a stop sign.
Some people
turning
write about
corners.
slipping too. Feels like the gear is slipping. Is
Well,
that transmission always?
Not always. That's why I say a lot of engine concerns can feel like a transmission problem and not be really related to transmission whatsoever. But that's where our diagnosticians, that's what they do all day long. That's what they're trained to do. And if it is an engine concern, typically that's something we don't work on, but we would definitely give you a recommendation and what have you.
Well, you're all about the job done right at the right price.
At the right price.
Two very important things to us as consumers. So 5 locations for Certified Transmission in the area. You can make appointments online at omaha.certifiedtransmission.com. Jody, thank you for your time
Great
today.
to see you again.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
I love coming in.
We love
Anytime.
having you here. You're a good
Any
guy.
Monday, come on in.
Any Monday,
Any
come on.
Monday.
I
Tuesday
think-
through Friday, the door is not open. I'm just kidding.
I don't know if I'll be able to pry that away from Peter, but we'll try.
We like him too.
Yes.
We like him too.
Thanks,
Oh,
Doctor.
so if you want to get their take on